Welcome back, Strategy Gamers, to episode 76 of War in the East 2, Stalingrad to Berlin. Second half of turn 39 here as we continue our progress down along the front, north to south. This episode might be just 10 minutes or so shorter than usual because we made great progress in the top half. Things have been a little bit easier in our advances lately, so there have been fewer battles to think about, resolve, etc. But we're going to do some admin things as usual at the end of this episode, and of course see how the turn simulates out for next turn. So we left off in the previous episode just south of Kursk, where the enemy kind of withdrew to this little new defensive line. When we look down here around Kharkov, we do see that there is, some pretty decent resistance. There's a lot of armor, right? I mean, 4 hexes here. We've got the 5th Panzer, 2 elements of the 23rd Panzer, another element of the 23rd Panzer, and then we've got the 1st Hungarian Armor Division. Now that Hungarian Armor Division, at this point, with its supplies looking quite poor, I'm betting its supply, morale, fatigue situations, etc. are looking pretty dire. Normally we might try to push a little bit more against this, but we actually have ourselves a unit that's in a bit of a tough supply situation with only 41% ammo on hand and 34% level of supplies, and that would need to be involved to try to push that back. So we're going to hold another turn, and really along this Kharkov immediate front, we're just going to sit as is. We had some units here too that we're kind of repositioning along the front line. I do think in some of these areas we are going to try to advance and break out just a little bit though. So let's start with this Rifle Corps as part of the 5th Guards Army. I'm expecting there's going to be some units in reserve supporting this Sturm Brigade. But even still, I think we have a decent chance of trying to break through here. See the result. They had nothing, pure rout, nice and easy. Now what we'll do is we're going to take that Rifle Corps and these mechanized and tank corps, and we're going to attack this 2nd Sturm Brigade. Again, kind of expecting that they might have some of those Panzer units or other units behind the lines in reserve. They did not. So what I'm kind of taking from that, I have this sneaky suspicion, and we haven't quite had enough recon from our air deployments to confirm this, but I was looking before recording here just a little bit in the south. All along the front line, these are really reduced units. Like this, they've broken up their infantry divisions, and they're occupying the front line with really a skeleton crew. My suspicion is that they've actually already started to draw back priority forces to maybe about this distance further away from the current front line to try to start digging in fortifications. And my hunch is that's why we didn't actually see any reserve results here in those 2 attacks. Normally the tactics they've been using, I think that would have been a prime opportunity for them to try to counterattack our attack with some armor head on or something like that. Instead we just saw nothing. So that's my suspicion. We'll see if it actually plays out though. This rifle division here, I think might be a little tough, but I think we might take these units. Oh, we can't actually advance, can we, with the Rifle Corps? So it's the Rifle Corps that's preventing us from going forward there. So let's see, can we get the 159th Rifle Division up there? We can. Now let's give it this mechanized corps. We'll go one more with this tank corps. And yeah, now I think what we're going to do is going to take this Rifle Division actually off the line, and I'm going to put it into reserve. Back here we had another Rifle Division We're going to move that south. There we go. I'm happy with that. We have 2 rifle corps right in the middle, which frankly, now that I look at it, we should actually try to get one of them south. So let's take the stronger of the 2 and bring them south here. I think that'll work nicely. So they'll be in a decent position to counterattack here. However, I'm hopeful that their supply situation, plus the fact that I have the suspicion that they're going to actually fall back to a further defensive line. I'm guessing probably somewhere along one of these north-south minor rivers that we have that branch off from the Dnieper. That somewhere in here is where they're maybe going to try to reform their line. I was actually a little surprised when they did this. They got a couple of hexes here, right, like on the hills and such, but I actually thought they would have tried to use the geography a little more to their advantage and actually use some of the forest, the town, again, the river, to their benefit. But I think one of the reasons they didn't was just sometimes when you shape your front line to the geography, it can actually work against you because you'll have to maintain, in terms of linear length, more front line has to be manned and defended, as opposed to maybe a more efficient straight line, regardless of geography. So I think they're probably falling back, so I'm not expecting counterattacks, but we'll see next episode. Now, when we look further down here, we now kind of have a bit of a question to think about. The last time in this area that we started to get a little aggressive, pushing back and such, we saw those really, really determined and serious counterattacks from the enemy. And the risk we have if we don't act aggressively now, and if my theory is correct that they have started to try to form a new defensive line, that if we keep waiting, these guys will get even more dug in. You can see already some of these hexes are at fortification level 2, the rest at 1s. In the rear here, it's only going to be worse as they've had time to settle in. So I think in some of these areas, we need to try to press through. Specifically, I'm kind of looking in this section, and then I think we might kind of push back here against this element of the 6th Panzer, just because I think it's a target of opportunity, if you will. So let's first see this rifle division, if there's any armor that we can get to support it. And there is a heavy tank regiment, which I think will be perfect. So that way, if we do actually face any type of serious armor here, that will help immensely. They already have a heavy tank regiment, that unit does. So let's take these 2 and try to break through on this element of the 6th Panzer. They retreated. They lost 22 armor. We lost 22 armor. Men, it was about 2-1 in their favor. I'll take that result, though, and again, it kills the fortification level, and they have to fall back, and they've expended even more supplies. We're just going to be a little aggressive with this rifle division here, and we're going to try to push through the line as well. Again, trying not to give them too many hexes where they can continue digging in quite so efficiently. And then over here, we're going to do the same thing against this hex because it's already at a fortification level 2. And let's see, you have an anti-tank regiment. Do you think we're going to get rid of the anti-tank regiment? And we're going to give them instead this tank brigade, as I think that will be more useful in their assault on this fortified position. Decent odds there. We did actually manage to push them out, and it looks like we captured a depot as well. I think that armor probably made all the difference in the world getting that. So that was a positive result for us there. Not going to advance into these hexes, though, and what I find interesting is it looks like they've already got some fortification levels already built in the line behind where they were. So my fears are starting to look like they might be a little true here. We're going to start now actually from the bottom, just north of Dnipropetrovsk. I'm butchering that, my apologies. And I'm going to try to knock out this unit first. And let's see this rifle corps. We can give you a tank brigade maybe to help with that. So we're going to use these 2 stacks here to try to push through. We routed them. Excellent. That's what happens when 2,000 men try to get in the way of 40,000 with 100 armor. So that was a good result for us. And because of the kind of depleted position they have on the front line, we're actually going to advance into this hex. Now we're going to do the same thing with these guys and try to push through here. And again, I'm looking to see what support units we might have available for them. Ooh, nothing. And I think this would be the same as it's the same HQ. Yep, okay. So let's see what we get, though, without any armor. So they did retreat. I think the numbers were just simply too great for them. Going to continue that trend here. 1 hex north. They retreated again. And let's take these guys, because we have some armor elements, and push here. They retreated. I'm tempted to just push back this unit too, but we're not going to. We're going to advance with this rifle corps. We're going to advance with these 2 units. And then we're going to take, let's think about that, a lot of support units in these 2 stacks. We're going to take the tank corps, and we're just going to move them south there. All right. So I like how those results all fell for us. We haven't run into anything yet, so again, I think this is probably off this minor river, maybe where they've started to dig in. If I'm wrong, then it's just fantastic news, and we just continue our path towards Kiev. We haven't talked much about this, but really this road here from Dnipropetrovsk, we can Petrovsk. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to work on actually getting that correct. We can actually follow this road here along the Dnieper straight to Kyiv, kind of from a logistics perspective. So this is a very good spot for us to be breaking through. It also helps us avoid, if we look just a little bit more to the north, there's a lot of swampy terrain that we'd have to go through on this side of things. So this would be kind of a critical axis of advance if we wanted to try to rush to Kiev. Now, here, I don't know that we need to actually try to break through with this unit. Instead, what I think we're going to do, and you could use a little more time getting back on your feet. We've got some units that were really hit hard here. So that's another reason I want to just be a little bit more cognizant of what we're doing. Because we do have the option of maybe advancing into this hex. But that just starts to stretch us a little thin. I don't know what we get from doing that. So I'm going to take these guys here, and we're just going to skip past that momentarily. We're going to continue right along. So we retreated them out of that hex. Excellent. Let's now try to do the same thing here. Routed them. Wonderful result for us. And we'll take both of these units forward, actually. And I think what we'll then do is actually take this rifle division south here. I think that's a good result. These units, if they have the capacity, will advance further. Now this stack can come forward. And I think we're going to have them attack north. Good. We're out at them. Because again, I want to try to steer their energy to this sector of trying to stop us from having a consolidated breakthrough. And what I mean by that is, so here we had great success, right? But I want these units to start pushing in a more northwest direction, I guess you would say, to join with these units. Well, I guess one reason as well, because it tries to force these units out of their defensive positions as fear of encirclement comes up. But if instead I went purely west, then I think it presents more of an opportunity for them to prioritize defense on this Kiev line. Whereas if I'm coming northwest, they have to think about my advance south and north of the Dnieper River leading up to the city. Over here, I've got more than enough, I think, to continue kind of pressing from the south. So with that in mind, this cavalry corps I'm then going to use to advance all the way up here. And looks like we killed a general and we captured a depot, so that's a great result for us. And that rifle corps could go 1 hex, I guess. This rifle division could go 2. I'm going to try to move this HQ a little bit north. Kind of the theme that I'm going with here. We're going to be... Well, let's try to get this rifle corps to advance here first. That should be an easy win. Yep. And again, we haven't run into a single unit that is actually has reserves helping it, which speaks volumes about what they're doing kind of behind their lines. Now he can come forward. Let's see if we... No, I can't get you any support. Let's see if we can just press our luck a little here. Okay, that worked. They did retreat, so that's good. All right. Now, over here, the 28th Army. I think you can just advance. I'm going to get really cocky here. We're going to take the 28th Army north. This is almost opposite of what I had been planning in the previous turns. But we're actually going to take these guys north. And we'll take the HQ up here now. And then the 57th Army is just going to try to cut straight over here. I'm going to bet that it's the same level of defense here, and we're going to attack a little blindly. We did break through, so we got the result we were hoping for there. We'll try to press that luck with this hex. Again, we were successful. And let's see what we can do here. Let's take this rifle division up. And let's see if we can push them back. Okay, so now we're starting to get some reserves committed. It wasn't enough, though. So we were able to advance there. And then we'll take this rifle division up further. Okay. I'd hope to maybe try to break out with that mechanized unit, but we just don't have movement points for it. I can't go there. The terrain is just awful, and really that's what's bogging us down. Is it more efficient to maybe go north and around? Well, let's see here. 57th Army. 57th Army is actually over command capacity. So again, let's get a little crazy here. We're going to take this mechanized corps, and we're actually going to assign them to this army up here, which I think was the 28th Army. Yeah, let's do that. So we solve a HQ command bottleneck, and we add just a little bit of extra firepower that actually is less about the firepower for this mechanized corps. I'm excited about this mechanized corps. Next turn, how far it can maybe go and press with some of these cavalry corps and cavalry divisions that we have. Because really around this area, we are very heavy on infantry divisions. We don't have a lot of motorized or mechanized units here. So by giving them this mechanized corps, I'm hoping that helps take advantage of some of the open ground ahead of us that we've created. We are very, very light on our defenses here, but we do have defense in depth, so that is an encouraging thing. Over here, we've already advanced with these guys. So I don't think there's much else to do there. We will... I think we just have to press the advantage since they've drawn back so much. I mean, this is night and day difference from some of the past turns that we've had here on this front. So let's try to take advantage of that situation a little. We're not going to be able to advance there, but this rifle division can come up. This rifle corps can come up. All right. Now, this rifle corps will try to attack here. Can we maybe give them some armor, some support units? Yeah, let's do the heavy tank regiment. And let's see how much that helps with attacking and assaulting this hex. Oh, very, very good result. Retreated, we lost next to nothing. And then we'll also advance there. Let's see if we can't press with these two units. Ooh, there was a Hungarian division committed, but that's a pretty light support for them. So I think here we'll come north. These two units will move north. You can come up. What do we have here? This airborne division. Let's move them over. Let's try to push them back here. Hungarian light division again. That's a very weak unit. We did manage to push them back. This is all very good. This is all very good. Now here we actually had some success in the previous turn, if you recall, actually going just a little bit north here of the river. And I was expecting that maybe we'd have to go all the way around to Kolosovko. But we can also actually probably just cross here now. So I'm going to take both units forward. They're both going to go across. And then here, we're going to, with the rifle brigade, we're going to get really ambitious and we're going to try attacking. Oh, 10th Guard Airborne was committed. Oh, that was our 10th Guard Airborne. My goodness. What a mistake on my part. Let's look at that result real quick, because that looked like a really good result. Wow. What a statement of a victory. Only 20 men survived. Wow. That's very positive. But now what I was excited about is now this mechanized corps we can have come up here. Very, very good. And this mechanized, now we're going to have come right here. All right. So again, we're getting a little more ambitious here. But I think this is the opportunity to do it. Let's see if we can get maybe some support units here. Not much with the 37th Army. What do we have down here? You're also 37th Army. Going to... So this cavalry corps we can actually unload. Or do I click this? There we go. And we're going to have them... Let's see. Have them fill in on the line here. This airborne division. Let's have them come north. I don't want these guys to be too disconnected. And then we're going to take this rifle division up here. This guy moves over. Good result there. I can take you off the train. This is the HQ unit that we have here. Good stuff there. So it's a very weak, and we have a horrible kind of risk with this unit, but I'm not expecting them to come in force. A little worried about how overextended we are here with the 5th Mechanized. But if we can actually hold this side of the bridge, that makes such a difference. Because this rail line going north-south, if you look at it, this is actually the first rail connection that we could possibly start having to the rest of our supply network, is going from Odessa up here, crossing the river, turning east, and crossing here, right? That's the first rail connection that we can really have to the Odessa pocket. So capturing this bridge gives us another route to put pressure on this front line. Now these units that are defending these hexes are going to be part of the overall planning that the enemy will have of how do they defend against this breakout pocket, because they also don't want us just running wild north and further risking encirclement of all of these forces over here. It's about creating dilemmas for your enemy, making them choose between two bad options, right? Now here, these guys were still loaded on the train. I think we will keep them on the train because we can actually get them all the way up here, and then we should still have enough to unload them. So that worked out nicely. And let's see. We can't go too far with them, though. This unit, though, we can take this guy forward and have these units backfill the position. So that worked out nicely. We have, is this the 9th Army? Were you on trains? I can't remember. 9th Army. I think the 9th Army was actually up here and they got pushed back, I want to say. So let's actually take you up here. And this Rifle Corps is kind of a similar situation. We'll have you come here. This HQ can come here. I think that's right, because these guys are actually on the train. I might have made a bit of a mistake there, but we'll see. We can bring them all the way up here to this point in the rail line, and we can also unload them. If I unselect you, though, we can actually get just one hex closer there on rail transport. So that's nice. We've got a couple of options of where we can go with you. Let's have you... Can you go further north? And if I can occupy that hex with someone else, let's do that. Then that guy can go there. That rifle division can just go... We'll go up here just to keep that fortification level maintained for no other reason. And this airborne unit can continue forward. We'll have you come here. All right, very good. Okay, we got the HQ. All right. So there's that. We have a couple more hexes maybe to examine here. Just feels like a trap, man. It really feels like a trap. If these two elements of the Viking SS Panzergrenadier Division weren't here, I would be much more aggressive. And I'm trying to remember, I thought these guys were actually a little bit further north on the map. I wonder if they were redeployed here to the south. I can't remember if they were in the south previously. We're going to get a little aggressive in this part of the front. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to have this guy try to actually break through a little bit. And that was successful, and we got a depot, so wins all around, okay? And then this infantry division is going to come up here. This tank corps is going to come forward here. And this motorized unit, maybe not. Have the motorized unit come down here. But you see, I'm less worried now about them counterattacking with this being what they have on the front, right? If that makes sense. I'm much less worried about that. We're going to have you come up here. You'll likely find yourself under a counterattack. But I think you'll be okay. We can have you go just a little bit forward too. Captured another depot. That's fantastic. That has a pretty serious impact to the enemy. So that's really good news. This mechanized corps, we're going to go just a little bit further here on the road. And we'll have this guy come up as well. And some of the reason I'm doing this is I know just how many more forces we have on their way coming here to help out in the south. So I think it's going to turn out quite nicely. If you recall, I think it was 2 turns ago, so 4 episodes ago, something like that, 3 episodes ago, we had actually taken some units from some of the other theaters as well. And unlike our reserve box, where the next turn those units arrive on the map, from the other theaters it can take, I think it's between 2 and 4 turns, depending on the theater, for them to arrive. So over the next couple turns, we're going to continue having more units come in reinforcement. I think it was Ishun that we had allocated this location. Maybe could have moved that a little bit closer to the front, but it's going to do just fine. And then we also have up here, which we skipped over a little bit. Some of you may have been sitting there going, don't forget them. We can actually take these guys south now. We got them on the rail network. They're ready to go. So we can bring all of them forward here now. And these are some serious units that we're able to move up to the front here. Now you'll note that the distance gets just a little bit less for each one that we do, and that's largely driven by the rail capacity that we have on that line. And what we're running into here is in the previous, the previous units that we've been moving up, they've started to chip away at what the rail capacity is along this network. And I think what we're going to find is that next turn and the turn after, we're actually going to start to run into some, not large, but I think we're going to start to run into some supply concerns, because this rail network has been focused, instead of bringing ammo and food to the front line, rather it's been focused on, hey, how do I move these troops to the front line? HQ, I'm going to move over just a little bit there as well. This is the step front, that's fine. It's probably okay to move you forward as well. And here, I'm going to move you here just because I've extended a little bit with these armor units. I want you being just a little closer there. Okay. So we got a lot of units that are still coming on their way, and next turn they'll probably be able to disembark here, just a little bit west of Kherson. So that's a positive. Let's take a look now at our rail repair units. So here's one that we have, and let's see. Is that one? I don't actually think it is. That's a mistake. Hotkey not work? Oh. No, that is one. I'm sorry. I'm tempted to bring you right back south again. But instead, actually looking at it, I should have noticed this before. This north-south line, we might actually have this in a turn or two all under our control. So let's start focusing on getting that converted. And let's see, is it turned off the counters because I wanted to see this two-way track line if it actually ran south, but it doesn't. So I think we're just going to focus on going here and straight southwest from that city. Oh, I don't know that I want to go quite that far. We're going to go back just in case they counterattack. Now over here, this guy... Let's bring you here and work this way. That might not have been the most efficient way to have done that. And do we go north? I think we do. I want to prioritize these double-sided rail lines that we have here. That really is a focus for me. I can't recall in the previous turn if we had done the other rail units, so let's just do a quick little check of those. Thought we had. It's looking like we probably did. We did. Okay. So those are all taken care of. We've done all of our actions here on the front line. Things are looking really good, guys. This is shaping up very nicely. Again, a couple turns, 5 turns ago even, we probably would have had some concerns about whether or not we were even going to be able to hold Odessa from some of the counterattacks that we were seeing here. Now, very clearly, as expected, the pressures on the other parts of the front, I think, are now forcing the enemy to really reorganize their defensive lines. And I'm curious where we're going to see between us and Kiev where they've kind of redrawn their new defensive line. They may have gone back very far because we're starting to get this kind of hook shape here if we look at the mini map of our front line. And if I were them, I would be having some serious considerations about going back further than a few hexes to try to really cut down on the linear distance that they're defending, because they're having to make this almost, J sign or symbol. It's really stretching their ability to concentrate their forces. But the further they go west in their defensive line, the less they have to allocate towards this curve in the front. Anyways, I think they might be drawing back further than we've seen in other situations. Only time will tell. As I mentioned, we were going to do just a few admin things here real quick. So we're actually going to look at the build menu, something I don't think we've looked at in a while. And I want to look at some opportunities to actually build some units. We certainly have administration points to be able to support them. That's from this cost column here. And one that I really want to look at is this Guards Airborne Division. These are some pretty seriously strong units, really, and the Guards designation only helps with that. And we currently have 10, but our limit is 19. And you look at like rifle corps, we're under our limit, which says, hey, go make more rifle corps. But unfortunately, our rifle divisions, we are far above our limit. And rifle divisions, of course, are needed for rifle corps, right? 3 divisions building up to a corps. So for the moment, that's a situation that's going to stand as is. But we can look here, and let's say we're going to build 6 new airborne divisions. And we'll hit build. So those are now down here, and you can see they're now considered existing, and they'll be in the Soviet reserve window when we look there next. And they'll start building up over time as supplies from the factories and such start to reach them. The other thing I think we can look at is not the Cavalry Corps. We can actually look at, where was it? Excuse me. The motorized brigades and the mechanized brigades. So I think here we're going to do 3 of each of those. Just because, again, in these open terrain that we're now kind of approaching, these can be of great benefit to us as we continue those advances. We also have the option for some rifle brigades. So here we're actually going to do, I think, a further 5 rifle brigades, because those can be quite useful. That size of unit, at least I should say, when we look at this advancing front, where we did a lot of consolidation and administration work to get a bunch of rifle corps built up, which are very much needed. You need rifle corps when you're sitting here and you're trying to, say, counter something like this Viking SS Panzer Grenadier Division. But down here in the south of Odessa, what I would do to, and frankly, there are probably other things I could do to try to help alleviate this concern, but what I would do to be able to have, 3 or 4 rifle brigade units that could just each keep advancing with their 3,000 men or whatever the number is, to really build a bit of a line where we're not worried about counterattack, risking being cut off, etc., etc. So here we are lacking just a little bit in quantity of units, as well as concentration of units. So trying to address both problems in a balanced manner, both opportunities, I should say. I think that's going to do it with all of our movements and actions for this turn. So let's go ahead and hand over the depot management to the AI, and then we're going to end the turn and see what the enemy does. I'm going to be a little curious if there's any counterattacks at all. I mean, there certainly probably are a couple of positions they could, but I think we have a decent chance. I should be knocking on wood. I do this every single turn. I think there's a decent chance we see very few, if any, counterattacks from the enemy. Maybe, again, last-ditch efforts up there by Leningrad because of just pure desperation. But it's pretty clear, especially in the southern half of their front line, they're trying to reposition. That's what their priority is. Looking at this map, I guess actually we might see some counterattacks around Minsk, because you can see just how close we are to closing in on that city. And their only chance really is going to be to try to counterattack us. Them trying to build a front line that kind of surrounds that pocket we're advancing on would be very difficult for them to successfully pull off. So I could see them maybe trying to counterattack there, just west and north of Minsk, where we've broken through a little bit. We'll see in just a minute here, though, what the decisions are from them. Just about through the AI logistics phase, then we get into the action. All right. Let's see. How many flights are they going to make to try to drop supplies to cut off units? That is a bit of a question. Flak's doing a decent job this turn, though. That's nice to see. Looks like a lot of recon. Which, if I were them, I'd be doing something similar, because when we have these breakout pockets, for us, we get to see a lot more of kind of the behind the line situation just naturally from breaking through. The enemy, when they're always on the defensive and they don't have those breakthrough pockets, they never get any of that visibility behind the front line. So that it makes a lot of sense that they'd put a focus on that. Here we see this air freight. I just want to kind of look at some of the numbers that they've got here. They continue to take pretty consistent losses there. Do have a counterattack just south of Kharkov, it looks like. See if they do it again. Okay, so they've had 2 counterattacks now. You see some decent sized units here, motorized it looks like, and some panzer elements. Okay, Kursk. Ooh, are they gonna cut off our line here? Yeah, north of Kursk too. All right. I was too optimistic, everyone. I was far too optimistic. We lost 75 out of our 79 armor in that attack. We lost 27 out of 27 in that attack. Wow. What was that about? I need to practice a little bit more patience in some areas. Something like that. This is the first we've kind of seen counterattacks around the Königsberg front. That's interesting. They did push us back at least one hex there northwest of Odessa. I'm not terribly surprised by that. But if we can even hold just the one extra hex there, that was a pretty important win for us. And I think that might wrap it up with their counterattacks. The bouncing of the camera almost gives the impression that the AI's broken on what to do around the Leningrad side. Now they're building their defensive line. This is, again, what would be very interesting to see without the fog of war, what their decisions are. But that would take all the fun out of it, frankly. Almost wrapped up with their turn now. Rail repair. I have no clue how it takes so long on rail repair. What on earth could they be repairing? And then a few more air freight missions, it looks like. An interesting spot for them to be doing that. Okay. Again, a little curious that they're doing that behind their front lines. But that just might speak to the logistical situation that they find themselves in. So Kursk, it's just incredible. They really are pushing back to almost, I don't know, might be 10 turns ago, lines of defense. But what surprised me was I'm surprised they didn't take those forces and counterattack south, trying to isolate what I have going west. Now, in their defense, I might be just walking myself into a trap here where that's what's coming next turn, and they want me to continue putting units back here, knowing that I won't be able to maintain an effective line to them. But I would have thought that's the clear opportunity for them. It's a little curious. Almost through our logistics phase, and then we'll get a chance to see the end of turn summary. Almost, I should say. Almost. Minsk, they didn't counterattack at all. Look at that. You see like some of this high ground that we're really going to be able to get dug in on. High ground, swamp. That's going to be tough for them to get us out of there. And again, presents a great opportunity to encircle some of these forces in this pocket just north of the city. Very exciting. All right, let's take a look here at what we have for our end of turn summary. Wow. Okay. So we had a net loss of 72,000 men. Fair enough. 830 guns, 620 armor, 295 positive in airframes. What happened to the Axis, though? We lost 875,000 men? That's great. Was there an event for like Romania flipping or something like that? Italy surrenders. Okay. That's what it is. Because the game does simulate all the other parts of the war in Europe as well. Okay. So Italy surrenders. That explains it. I was puzzled by that number at first. Yep. So Sicily was taken. The Italian government then surrendered, which then means all those forces that were, being counted as Axis forces are now removed. So looks like there are going to be some game event campaigns with France. So that's good. And then this looks like the specific events in Italy. So their theater box for Italy, it looks like it's going to be a little more difficult for them now, which can make sense now that the Allies are in Italy. They lose a victory point as well for not having enough in the theater box. And then we have some general partisan activities in Belarusia, Central area, kind of USSR regions. Okay. What a turn. That certainly explains that number, though. Now, on the flip side, though, that number distracted from, wow, net loss of 600 armor, 72,000 men. It'll be curious next episode to see, of that 623 net loss in armor, just how many of them were lost in counterattacks north of Kursk. I think that number could be pretty substantial when we go back and look at it. So that's something for the next episode, though, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, your continued support. And again, any questions or comments you may have, feedback in general, please leave them in the comments section. I'll do my best to get back to you in a timely manner. Really appreciate everyone. And with that, strategy gamers, hoping you have yourselves an excellent day. Bye now.